Welcome. This is MLB Tonight. Dan O'Dowd, Sean Casey. I'm Robert Flores. We're glad you're with us. Ahead this hour, Brave shortstop Vaughn Grissom will join the show. But first, let's begin with a variety of news items. And let's start with the Boston Red Sox. They have come to terms with a former Brave, Adam Duvall. Mark Feinsand with the tweet. 1 year, $7 million with the Red Sox. He can earn up to $3 million more in performance bonuses. Our John Heyman was first to report of the agreement between Duvall and the Red Sox. And Dan, I think it was you, one of you specifically, mentioned Adam Duvall as a good option for the Boston Red Sox. It's been an up and down offseason for the Red Sox. What do you make of this move?
Well, just not a lot of center fielders out there at all. Not a lot of center fielders casing our game right now. So, I mean, Adam is, for me, a really good defender. He runs well for such a big man. He hit 38 home runs in 2021. Case, he's got some swing and miss in him, but he's a great teammate. He's played on championship teams. He's been in big moments. I think when you start adding on the margins, I think this is a great acquisition.
Yeah, also a big RBI guy. I mean, he led the NL 113 RBIs in 2021. Yeah. You're right, Dan. When you see how big Duvall is, you don't think he's a center fielder, but he's a plus center fielder out there. So I think it's a nice sign. I also think playing in Boston in 2008, you see guys that are right-handed hitters that are sometimes pull heavy, and Duvall is one of those guys.
Good call.
Listen, man, that monster will save you. That monster will give you more hits, and it'll give you more home runs. So I think it's a great park for Adam Duvall to be signing in because that the green monster is going to help him.
I like the versatility, Roflo. It's like you're not pigeonholing him into. He can play all three outfield positions and play them well.
Yeah, we saw the alignment there, and obviously there's a big question mark at shortstop right now. But when you look at that lineup right now for the Red Sox, what comes to mind?
I mean, I think it's going to be a competitive club. Alex Cora gets the most out of the talent that he has. I think they've improved their bullpen a ton, which was a weakness a year ago. But I don't think it's, I think there's still a significant gap between the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah. I think getting Yoshida, though, I think that's a nice sign. And I also think Justin Turner is a sneaky nice sign, too. Listen, this guy's still got some left in the tank. He can still hit, and I think the monster's going to help him a lot, too, with that right-handed swing.
Well, Tommy Pham recently spent some time with the Boston Red Sox. Now it appears that he will be spending time with the New York Mets. John Heyman back with the tweet, $6 million. Tommy Pham going to the New York Mets. Not a mess. Excuse me. Maybe that's a Freudian slip, but for right now, it's not a mess.
I hope you don't have a crystal ball.
No, just a slip of the tongue. What do you make of Pham to the Mets?
I like him, man. It seems like everywhere Tommy Pham goes, he wins. And, for me, when I look at Tommy Pham, this guy's a nice fourth outfielder. He's going to get some starts. Still has some pop in his bat, 17 home runs last year. I think it's a nice sign, and I think it's another piece for the Mets. The Mets are still doing a great job of putting together a team, trying to win the World Series, and I think Pham fits that mold right now.
Dan?
Case, I think your terminology, trying to put together a team, I think that's in likeness of their manager. When you look at Tommy, for me, his splits are good against left-hand starting pitching. And so when you want to give Brandon Nimmo a day off, and last year they had, and here's his splits against left-hand pitching, and it's very productive.
Wow.
Since the start of 2019. When Brandon Nimmo didn't get hurt at all last year. He's got historically some issues at time to times of getting hurt. So now at least you've got someone, if you want to give him a day off, if he's nursing a minor injury, Cannon can play center field. Tommy can play center field. He can also play left field. The other thing, you add players as a GM in likeness of the intensity of your manager. And so
he's intense,
this guy kind of fits the whole team mindset. They just bought in another winning player who's an intense competitor, as Case said, that has won. And I think Buck has already probably had a conversation with him before the signing about this is your role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So don't come ask me for anything more. This is your role. You need to accept it, embrace it. I'll get you your at-bats, but I need for you to bring your intensity and A game every day to the ballpark.
Yeah, and don't forget, he was pretty good in his time with the Boston Red Sox when he came over.
He played well.
Absolutely. So a good sign for the New York Mets. Now, let's turn to the bullpen for the New York Mets because reportedly, John Heyman back again, Andrew Chafin. The market is heating up now. Mets are among teams in on one of the top lefty relievers. They've also talked to Zach Britton. What do you make of Chafin and the possibility of Britton for the New York Mets?
I love it. You can never have enough bullpen pieces. And if you think back to Zach Britton when he was one of the best closers in the game, he was with Buck out there in Baltimore.
Right.
So I think, Buck would like nothing more than to go down and start mixing and matching. If he could have Chafin and have Zach Britton at the back end there, with Diaz closing it out, being pretty impressive.
I'll tell you, when I dug into Chafin's numbers, I realized Zach hasn't pitched really healthy in 2 years. But, I mean, it's a 2.83 ERA, 57 in the third. But Case, 10.52 strikeouts per nine, 2.98 walks per nine. This guy, last 2 years, he has been a dominant left-hand pitcher. When you look at their bullpen configuration, it might allow you to slide Peterson to the long roll or even down to AAA because you're going to need the depth of your starting pitching, and you want him stretched out to be able to jump in at any point in time.
Yeah, you mentioned Zach Britton hasn't been healthy. He has struggled with injuries recently. If you're evaluating him and considering making an offer to him, how do you know what comes to mind, or what questions would you need to have answered?
Well, I would want to see him throw. I'd want to see how his sinker looks because that's kind of what he is. I mean, having a guy with that power sinker in your bullpen, you know, you've got a runner on, two guys on, throws a ground ball, gets out of the inning. It's incredibly valuable. But Chafin is more of the sure bet. Britton probably has more of the upside.
Maybe possibility of adding both?
Oh, that would be incredible.
Right. You know, you got the sure thing right now in Andrew Chafin, and then maybe you hope Zach Britton can return to form.
You got to need some guys, though, in your bullpen you can option out or make moves with. Or if you take a whole team of guys that have no flexibility, it kind of boxes you a little bit.
Now, that's interesting. Elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, you want to construct your roster where you've got really good players, but you also want some flexibility for doubleheaders, nursing minor injuries where you don't want to DL a guy, a long game. You want to send somebody out, get somebody out. You don't want to lose guys through outright waiver claims. And some of these veteran guys, you can't even put them on outright waivers. Right. You're just going to have to release them. So it's really important that you keep in mind the flexibility of your roster when you're constructing your roster.
All right, that's definitely a good note. All right, let's talk about the Minnesota Twins. And on this show on Tuesday, you guys were saying, I think it was you, Dan, that said, I think the Minnesota Twins are in for a much better season than they were in 2022. This from Dan Hayes, who covers the Minnesota Twins for The Athletic. Carlos Correa's shocking return has prompted the Twins to try to improve their roster, including further exploration of trading AL batting champion Luis Arraez to acquire starting pitching help, that according to multiple team sources. All right, Luis Arraez on the trading block reported.
I think there needs to be a qualifier attached to that where they have interest in trading him if they can get back an impact starting pitcher. They're not going to trade him for. They've got contributors right now up and down their rotation. What they need is a game one or game two starter in postseason that can match up with somebody else's best starting pitcher.
Is Pablo Lopez fit that bill for you?
I don't believe so for me. Not the way he pitched the second half of the season. I thought he was good the first half. I think they need somebody that's going to front that rotation.
I like Joe Ryan a lot.
I do, but and a great team is a 3. Sonny Gray at this stage of his career is a 2, maybe a 3. Maley, when he's right's a 3. Maeda's a 3. Ober's. They've got really solid pitching.
Yeah.
They just don't have like a guy. And Lopez has the stuff. It's just the inconsistency of it that he really showed the second half of last year.
Dan brings up a great point, Sean. I mean, yeah, you can say we're willing to explore trading the guy and we want a frontline starter, but at this point of the offseason, and what kind of starters might be, fit that description?
Well, listen, he's an impact bat. He had a 130 OPS plus last year. This guy, and the big part about this, Luis Arraez, he turns 26 in April. He's under club control through 2025. Yeah. So like Dan said, listen, if you're going to get rid of this guy, if you're the Twins, you better be getting back a frontline starter.
They want the Cy Young winner for him, or him plus other pieces for him. Right. And look at the Twins lineup. I mean, they have some swing and miss in that lineup.
Yeah.
Like most teams do. To have a guy that doesn't do that kind of sets up the rest of the lineup. This one is one of those false rumors to me, unless it's like for a guy, and teams aren't going to trade that kind of starting pitching this time of year.
Let me put you on the spot real quick. Do you have, if you could, what kind of guy would work in return to the Minnesota Twins?
I mean, I like the Pablo. Do you have a name? Yeah, I like getting Lopez back. I just don't like trading that player to get him back. I mean, the Marlins are so right-handed dominant. They need left-handed bats desperately. And so the Twins they've got Larnach, they've got Kepler. They've got guys that fit the Marlins perfectly. And I think the Marlins are going to have to realize this is kind of what Lopez's value is in the game. I don't think there's a number one starting pitcher out there that the Twins are going to get this time of year.
All right, well, speaking of the Marlins, reportedly, we mentioned yesterday that they were at least interested in Aroldis Chapman. And then this here, an excerpt from the Miami Herald, the Marlins would like to add a veteran to share first base at-bats with Garrett Cooper and have had conversations with Astro free agent first baseman Yuli Gurriel, who hit .244, 8 homers, 43 RBIs. But, guys, he was much better in the postseason. He is a money player. He's a winning player. Sean, what do you make of the possibility of Yuli Gurriel to the Marlins?
Well, I think it'd be great for the Marlins. I think Yuli Gurriel has some left in the tank. I mean, he was the AL batting champ in 2021. Right. You know, I mean, this isn't that far off. Plays a nice first base over there too. This guy can hit, and like you said, Roflo, when the money time came in the postseason, he was back hitting. He's had great postseasons for the Astros. He'd be a great veteran guy in that clubhouse. It would be a great sign for the Marlins.
I mean, in their market, it'd be great. Again, I think Garrett Cooper needs to get every day at bats at first base. If you tendered him a contract, you believe there's some upside in him, you need to run that dude out and let him go. But maybe DHing, but then that means Soler has to play every day in the outfield. And the other thing, Case, I mean, they are really right-handed. The only two left-handed bats they've got is Chaz and Joey Wendell. The rest of their club is completely right-handed in every way, so a little bit easier to pitch to. They face guys with hard sliders going away from the barrel, and that club really struggles to score a run. Though it's a good fit, when you have a player that's played in so many meaningful games, you'd like to see him going into an environment to a team that realistically has a chance to contend for a World Series.
Yeah, what are those conversations like, Dan, when you float the idea of a player like this, as you said, who's been a frontline starter, who has played in some meaningful games, has gotten starter at-bats, and now, obviously, this would be a different role for him.
Yeah, they're hard. And Case knows that because, he's, 38 or 39?
38.
38 years old. Like, if the Marlins are trying to add wins on the margin right now. They're trying to figure a way to improve their club because they have such good young pitching. But it's really hard to do that with veteran players because it could go one of two ways. Yeah. Even if he's a great guy, he gets into a bad situation, he may not be the kind of impact player that you once had. So it's incredibly important you vet the opportunity out to him up front, and you're completely assured that he's in the right frame of mind to be able to take advantage of the opportunity that you're offering him. Yeah. Not